V Games. By David Hirst. Chapter 1. An adrenaline-filled roar thundered out from the sea of red and white inside the 1 million-seater stadium. A unified chant reverberated through every bone in Matt Brodie's body as the game approached the final minute. This was the first time he had reached the World Cup final in ultimate football. Previously, he had come unstuck at the semi-final stage, but today he had not only got to the final, but he was also on the verge of winning it, courtesy of his spectacular overhead kick which he had learned from a pro who taught him on the gaming network for £20 credits. His concentration in defending his slender lead was broken when a deep, ubiquitous voice announced, "Player 2 has entered the game." Matt let out a long, strained sigh. He had not expected Pete to gate crash since he had been preoccupied in playing his latest game Rock God. In the past week he had spent over 4 hours a night on the game. First of all, he would do a line of coke, which he washed down with a bottle of whiskey. After that he would go on stage, play a few songs, complete with long, self-indulgent guitar solos to the masses of screaming girls in the stadium. Then, somewhere during the performance he would do a stage dive in which his clothes would be discarded before having a mass orgy with a stadium full of groupies. Matt chose to suspend his game after the last time Pete gate crashed, when not only did he fight with the players, but also incited a crowd riot. "What do you want?" Pete asked Matt as he met him in the narrow hallway of their flat. "You left a message on Rock God saying that you wanted to speak to me." "Oh, so I did," remembered Matt. He knew Pete hated it when he did that, but it always seemed to work. "I was being carried along on my back by the crowd when I saw your message in huge letters on the ceiling requesting to see me. It's really destroyed my mojo. I think that would have been from the drugs and alcohol. Besides, there are more important things that we need to talk about, like why Jake hasn't returned yet," said Matt as he made the brief, two-step journey into the kitchen. "What's there to talk about?" Pete shrugged as he emptied the last drips of fruit juice from the carton into his mouth before putting it back in the fridge. "I'm getting worried. I sent the gaming company several V-mails and I've put the word out on all the forums, but I've had no replies. I just thought with you working at the V Games store that you might have heard something. We only know what we see online. We don't have access to anything that you don't," he said, like he was politely trying to fob off a customer. Pete had the habit of being self-centered sometimes. He was the kind of person that would wear a ribbed condom inside out so he could have all the pleasure for himself. Matt had been friends with him since school, after he and Jake, mainly Jake, had pulled off a couple of guys who were beating on him. Pete may have only been short, but he had a mouth of a person twice his size. It wasn't until later that Matt and Jake discovered that Pete had brought the incident on himself. Even now, he would get himself into trouble and try and drag his friends into it. However, Matt and Jake usually left him to sort his own mess out, which seemed to deter him from causing quite so much trouble. "Have you eaten?" Matt asked as he routed through the cupboards in search of something that could pass for being edible. "Sure did. I had roast beef with potatoes, veg and Yorkshire pudding, smothered in a rich, peppered gravy," Pete replied, rubbing his tummy and licking his lips. "No, in real life. Sustenance bar," he mumbled. Sustenance bars were the staple diet of most 18 to 25-year-olds. They had the appearance of a large cereal bar and contained a high level of vitamins across the range of the basic food groups, meaning that one could eat a healthy meal without wasting valuable gaming time by having to cook. Matt did occasionally cook meals for the others. He had been taught to cook by his V girl, Tracy. However, these lessons had a tendency to deviate from the task at hand when one of them would accidentally get flour on themselves and flick it onto the other. From this a food fight would ensue, and before they knew it, they were passionately making love on the kitchen table and using the food in a way that would give a food standards officer a heart attack. "I checked out the results of the V Games Championship final," said Matt, opening a can of vegetable soup. "All I know is that he didn't win." It's funny that, Pete pondered aloud. You would think that the V Games would want to promote their most prestigious competition, but it always seems to be shrouded in secrecy. "Would you watch it if it was on TV?" asked Matt. "I suppose you have a point," Pete conceded. "No," said Matt. "I actually think you have a point.